So recently, I was talking to Wendy Martelli, Texas Voice Pro Wendy Martelli, about confidence issues. I was sharing that I'd like to have more confidence with social media, and I just always feel really unsure about how to do that and what's important. And Wendy surprised me by telling me that she doesn't always feel confident about her teaching. Now, friends, Wendy has been teaching for decades. She's taken a number of pedagogy classes, including neurovocal training. She's a neurovocal certified teacher. She's a gorgeous singer. And like I said, teaching for decades. So I just did not expect that to hear. I didn't expect to hear that from her. But then I thought, well, I don't always feel confident about my teaching either. And I've been teaching a long time too. So I imagine that many voice coaches and teachers don't always feel confident because there are situations that happen in our studios that leave us feeling unsure. Clients quit without telling us why. We've all had that happen. Or even if they tell us, we might kind of doubt what they say. From time to time, we might hear gossip about our studios. We second guess ourselves after a lesson. We're afraid to raise our rates, right? Because of how people might feel about us. And, just all the things. For an independent voice pro, this is a very big deal. And I'm assuming most people that listen to me are independent voice pros like me. Relationships are the foundation of what we do. If we aren't confident and adept at managing those relationships with our clients, relationships that honestly can sometimes last for years, as you know, then we aren't teaching well. Our concerns about our clients' thoughts and feelings can get in our way. Relationships are literally enmeshed with the pedagogy that we work so hard on. And, if the interpersonal thing ain't happening, then the learning isn't happening very well either. It's not happening as well as it could. Therefore, today's topic is about reading people. Reading people. Because that's really important to our professionalism. It's important to our very livelihood. I have some insights, some tools that you may find surprising today, so stay with me. I am Meredith Colby. I support voice teachers to create confident teaching and singing of microphone-based popular styles. I am the author of Money Notes, How to Sing High, Loud, Healthy, and Forever, which introduces neurovocal method, a way to approach singing that is based on brain science. If you want information about me or what I do, you can join my mailing list and get information and freebies and all kinds of good stuff at meredithcolby.com. Thanks for being here with me today. If you are here today, please contribute to the conversation. If you are watching on replay, you can still contribute. I will see your comments later. I really appreciate your comments, and I really appreciate the hearts and thumbs. And, Facebook sees me. I feel they see me when there are hearts and thumbs and comments. Seeing them helps me in so many ways. Also helps me as a human. So this week's freebie is a link to an article that I wrote about this very subject. So if you are interested in this subject, or if you are interested in any of the things that I referenced today, don't feel like you need to write them down. You can just put the word reading in the comments, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can, thank you for the heart, or you can, on YouTube, you can check the comments below and you can find that link. So no strings, just a link to the article just to make it easy to find. So, another brilliantly written article. Okay, so how do we read our clients? I believe we do. We need to read them both because they are not always forthcoming about what they are thinking and feeling, and because sometimes they simply don't always know what they're thinking or feeling. But those thoughts and feelings are literally a part of the voice. The functioning of the voice is influenced by the neurochemical messages that the brain is receiving and the hormonal messages that the tissue of the vocal folds is receiving. So if a student can be generating thoughts, so any given student can be generating thoughts that are calling up feelings that are affecting the outcome of our time with them, of our interaction with them. So that's a pretty big deal. Now, we all know that any given lesson can be both a building block to a greater whole, or it can literally be a turning point in the student's progress or even in their self-perception. Now, I would put money on the fact that anybody listening to this broadcast has had certain moments, or even they can even think of a particular moment in some voice lesson that shifted them somehow, shifted their thinking about something, or shifted the way that they were singing, or had a breakthrough that actually stuck and lasted. We've all had those moments that were just transformational. So those things happen, and our ability to read our students and to be read by our students is not only important to our livelihood, it is important to the student's entire life. Not to be too emo about it, but we're all singers here. We know I'm not really overstating it that much when I say that an experience with a voice coach or teacher can color your singing life in really profound ways. So I was thinking about all this. I was ruminating, and I was reminded about Tessa West. Now, Tessa West, I'm going to put her name up here in case you want to look her up. She is a psychology professor, or alternatively, you can put reading in the comments, and she is cited in the article that you would get a link to if you want to do that. But Tessa West is a psychology professor, and I recently heard her on a podcast. She researches interpersonal accuracy, which I think is super interesting. So, in other words, how well we read each other. She's also written a book called Jerks at Work. She's written a number of articles and co-written a number of articles. So I was able to sort of refresh my own personal memory about Tessa West by looking at some of her writing. And I want to share with you some of her insights today. I sifted through, I found some things that were really pertinent to what we do, what really matters for us in our profession, or things, in my opinion, anyway. So the things that jumped out at me as being important to our line of work are, here we go, power dynamics. We overestimate our ability to read people, and egocentric bias. That's going to be your fancy word for today, you guys. Egocentric bias. You'll get to throw that around. It's a cognitive bias, so you'll get to throw it around and feel fancy. So we're going to take a quick look at each of those and how we can adjust for these things, okay? So the first thing is power. Thanks for the thumbs. Power dynamics. So power dynamics are a really big deal for us. As we are in these intimate one-on-one interactions with people, we don't feel we're exercising power over them, right? Can I get a heart for that? I mean, we probably feel that we are nurturing them, informing them, guiding them, but they very likely feel that power dynamic. If they're children or they're teenagers, they see you as they see all their teachers. I mean, obviously we have a different kind of relationship with them, but still you're a teacher and you are more powerful than they. And you know what? Let's face it. If at any time you chose to use your powers for evil rather than good, you could say something that would be devastating to a child or a teen, right? If they're adults, then they're already good at something or a number of things, right? They're already good at stuff, but they have chosen to venture into this area about which you know so much more than they, right? So they are making themselves vulnerable. You are the person in the power position, even if you don't feel that way. So this matters because your student, as the low power person in the relationship, is going to tend to mask what they are thinking and feeling. Isn't that interesting? We don't even know we're doing it, but we do it. Further, they are going to be more actively trying to read you. So research has shown that people are better at picking up on social cues from people they are dependent upon. So I just want somebody to think this is as interesting as I do, because I think it's so interesting. In the student-teacher relationship, whether you mean for it to be this way or not, your students' antenna are up, and yours are not. frankly. You have to make the decision over and over again in every single lesson to be aware of this dynamic. You don't have to try to change it. It's not an unhealthy dynamic, but it is real and it is there. And so how to make the best use of that awareness will come as we look at these next two things. Okay, so the next thing is we overestimate our ability to read people. Now, I don't feel like I have to say much more about that. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to say that it is something to keep in mind. When you think you have accurately read someone's intentions or feelings or thoughts without checking with them, so just based on their physical posture, their facial expression, or their tone of voice, if you think you have read them and haven't checked with them, and you have concluded with them that you understand those intentions or feelings or thoughts, you are probably wrong. It is very likely you are wrong. Even that whole body language thing that we've learned to rely on, that is not to be trusted. People are very idiosyncratic. So for instance, like if I shrug my shoulders while I'm talking to you, it may mean something about what I'm saying. It may mean something about my physical state. It may be that my bra strap is itching me or something. It might mean nothing at all. It might mean nothing. So me crossing my arms. Everybody says, well, if you cross your arms, you're defensive. Maybe you're defensive, or maybe I'm cold, or maybe my chair doesn't have any arms on it, so I don't know what to do with my hands. I mean, it could really be anything. Generally, you should just try not to read people. That's the advice Tessa West gives. Just don't try to read people. And hear this advice. My advice to you is being supportive, not critical. I am not trying to be critical. I'm trying to be supportive. My intentions are to help you cut yourself some slack, okay? Elspeth is here. And Elspeth says, it is so true. Body language and facial expressions can be so easily misread. Thank you. Thank you for the amen there, Elspeth. Now, the third thing we're going to look at here is egocentric bias. Now, this is your $10 word for the day. Egocentric bias is the fancy clinical name for the thing that we all do. We all do this. We anchor what we imagine others are thinking or feeling based on our own experiences. This becomes more acute the more ambiguous the situation is. That makes sense, right? So the more unsure we are about what's going on, the more we tend to project our own interpretation of the experience. I'm going to go on a little tangent right now, but as I was reading that out loud, I was thinking about how I talk to teachers about raising their rates, and they feel very unsure and very self-critical about that. Like, I'm not sure I should do that. And it makes sense, right? Because when you project across a number of people, so not even just one individual, but a number of people, how can you possibly anticipate everybody's reaction to that? Because you're going to have everything to, okay, fair enough, to, I don't know, I think I really can't do any more lessons if she raises her. It could be anything like that, right? But if something is ambiguous, the more ambiguous it is, the more unsure we are. So anyway, sorry, little tangent, but now I'm back. In fact, okay, so in one podcast, I heard Tessa West say that the common advice to put yourself in another person's shoes, she was saying, people say, put yourself in someone else's shoes. And she said, that is great for compassion. In a general sense, it's really good for putting yourself in the shoes of, a category of people, a concept. But it's really bad advice for understanding what an individual is thinking or feeling. So I thought that was interesting. So let's say you've learned some really cool exercise, okay? You've just learned an exercise to address breathy head register, okay? Or M2 register, right? So your client, breathy M2 girl, comes into her session and you decide to try your brand new exercise with her. And it's the first time you've tried this on another human. You've tried it yourself, but you haven't worked with somebody. So maybe you feel a little unsure about it. And because you feel unsure, you are likely to project that onto the student. Yes, that's right. So you are likely to imagine that she's perceiving you as being unsure or perceiving you as being less than professional or not knowing what you're doing or something like that. She's not. She's almost for sure she is not. That's egocentric bias at play. It's also egocentric bias that makes you ruminate over why some particular student quit lessons and what you must have done to cause them to quit the lessons. Egocentric bias is a big stumbling block, and it is hard to overcome. I mean, I was writing this article and I found myself doing it in another situation on the same day. But I think it helps to know that it's there. If we kind of know it's there and it's influencing our perceptions and our beliefs, I think that's helpful. So the question is, how do you read your clients? So how should you read your clients? Number one, again, this is Tessa West's advice. Number one is ask them. Just ask them. If you perceive something about what they're thinking or feeling, just ask them. Say, I see you shifting your weight on your feet. Can you tell me what that's about? They might tell you that they're experiencing some physical discomfort that it's important for you to know about in the context of a voice lesson. They might feel uncomfortable because they don't like the lyrics of their song. Or if you're using a backing track, they might be feeling the groove of their song. Or they might be just sort of distracted because they're anticipating their grandma's visit or something like that. You just don't know. So you should ask them, okay? And then the other thing is to tell them. This is even harder, I think. Clarify your own behavior. Now, this takes a certain amount of self-awareness. But to clarify your own behavior so that they're not filling it in with their egocentric bias, right? So, because they're doing it to you too, more than you think. So you can say things like, oh my gosh, I was not sighing because of you. I'm just a little tired. I just realized I hadn't taken a breath in a while. Or you could say, I just realized I'm scowling. I am not scowling. My frustration is not with you. My frustration is with my computer. It has nothing to do with you. So just try to be aware of your own behavior and be really clear about its meaning. So you can be a wonderful model for not guessing. Be that model for clarifying interpersonal behaviors so that both you and your student feel confident in the relationship. I'm Meredith Colby. Have a great week.